Alright everyone, welcome back. It is now July 15th of 2025, and given that Meghan Markle keeps getting caught in multiple acts as we speak, not just over at Netflix, but also with other studios within the Hollywood bubble, within the film industry, and it's only beginning to backfire completely on her and exactly how she's trying to retain her overall image, so to speak, as far as she sees it as being relevant in the film industry. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You could also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, one thing about Meghan Markle right now is that we know that she keeps getting herself into constant trouble over at Netflix, and it's really creating this trifecta of drama between herself, Greg Peters, and Ted Sarandos. Now, both Greg and Ted, they are the CEOs of Netflix, in case you guys did not know that, but they actually have a lot of conflicts with each other. We have, of course, a major example just last week of how they had major creative differences over season 2 of Meghan Markle's series. However, this is where it begins to really hit rock bottom when it comes to the whole Meghan Markle investigation that was actually created by Netflix some weeks ago to really uncover multiple acts of plagiarism and other acts as well that would actually work against their image. Now, this is where it really begins to actually get interesting, is that we already know that Greg Peters is the one CEO that really is trying to steer the ship in the right direction, right? We know that he's trying to salvage whatever is left of Netflix when it comes to how they are actually losing a lot of subscribers, losing their core customer base, how people are heading over to HBO Max instead, for example, and it's only getting worse over time, especially when you're funding projects like with Love Meghan. However, with Meghan Markle getting caught in multiple acts time and time again at Netflix that put her into serious trouble, one major development going on now involves more to do with the Meghan Markle investigation and how it recently was labeled as a game changer for Netflix after discovering a dark secret hidden by Meghan Markle. Now, a crucial update to this entire process now involves how Netflix executives and producers recently discovered a handful of notes that were actually written by Meghan Markle herself, notes specifically catered for the script development phase for With Love Meghan Season 2. Now, these notes were created back when she held creative power well over 2 months ago for the series, before she actually was stripped of that power. Notes specifically that were going to be inserted into the show's script just before she was actually getting rid of that overall process. Now, one of which involved how Meghan Markle had planned to film a scene specifically that would showcase an entire lesson about divorce and the consequences of those involved in divorce and how that was going to be discussed between both Meghan Markle and Mindy Kaling in episode 2 of season 2. Netflix producers and, of course, executives also discovered more crucial notes when they were cleaning out her creative office at Netflix, where one of which included a full-on description of a scene that was going to focus on Meghan Markle releasing a series of videos that she had reportedly filmed 4 years ago when she was pregnant, dancing to rap music and lip-syncing to it all. It turns out that Meghan has multiple videos just like the infamous pregnancy video that was going to be applied to a scene for episode 3 of season 2, where Meghan was going to actually reveal those videos to her entire audience on her Netflix series and was even going to dance in the kitchen to her past videos while cooking. All of this was discovered while her office was getting stripped down and geared up for someone else to take over for another Netflix program. Now, the worst of all, however, involved a series of notes that Netflix producers obtained, and how it involved plans for a elongated scene where Meghan Markle was going to create a scene providing a lesson about alcoholism to the general public and raising awareness about that on With Love Meghan Season 2, Episode 7, where the scene was intended to last around 8 minutes long. Now, guys, before I move on, let me just say one thing about that. Now, the fact that she had these pile of notes during the whole script writing phase, back when she had creative power, back when she was calling the shots on many different angles of Season 2, and how that was immediately something that actually went downhill. We already know that Ted Sarandos and Greg Peters, they knew about these, of course, developments for a very long time. Producers and executives, not so much, and believe it or not, she did have her own little dedicated destination in Netflix HQ for, developing the series, enhancing the series and how she could actually improve its season 2. All these different notes, all these different, tips and tricks for the actual script that were never applied to the final script in the long run, of course. But this is where it gets even more very revealing, I think, that you could really say, is that we already know that Meghan Markle is really just embarrassed at this point, especially after what happened days ago. We talked about this, how she was caught in her trailer storing 2 boxes of wine from the set that was supposed to be used for the cast. And I think that that definitely equates to what she actually had in those notes when she was talking about alcoholism, providing a lesson about alcoholism. Now, we're going to get into exactly why. Netflix never intended to actually use these notes for reshoots, so this is where it really begins to pick up. Now, the main reason why Netflix decided to not use those notes while they were filming and while Meghan Markle had creative power is that they had urged her that this would actually sound like she was projecting to her audience, projecting her own issues, and that it would have been a very bad look. The biggest one of all was the discovery of multiple pregnancy videos that were planned to be inserted into the early episodes of Season 2. The reason why drama related to those notes, of course, recently resurfaced was not just limited to her office getting cleared out, but also how Meghan Markle was begging Ted Sarandos to actually reuse those notes at last minute for the last round of reshoots to expedite filming and the entire production process. Sarandos shot her down and refused those requests right on the spot, and it did indeed spark drama between the two. As of now, Netflix higher-ups are beginning, of course, to be very careful with the second season, in hopes that it will be a better ratings success than the first one. And look, they can say all they want, they can think all they want. I still firmly believe that Season 2 is going to be a bigger ratings disaster than Season 1. There's no doubt about that. I think that we all see that. Everyone knows that. Based on what's been going on right now with all the setbacks, all the issues related to reshoots, how Netflix is just having a very hard time really putting this entire process together, really trying to make Season 2 organized for the cast and the crew. Heck, they don't even have an actual script in play anymore. They're actually just, going with the flow, they're just throwing things at the wall, and they're basically just using improvised material for Season 2 for the later half of filming. And all of that is, of course, for the most part, is reshoots. And again, this is going to stretch until late July, alright, later this month, when reshoots will most likely come to a conclusion. I don't believe that this is going to stretch into August. I highly, highly doubt that. But never say never, right? But again, Ted Sarandos made a very good decision by really just saying, we're not using these notes. We're not using these at all, and that's why they were archived, they were put away, they were stored away in Meghan Markle's little office in Netflix HQ, and they were just recently discovered by a lot of other higher-ups, like executives, producers, etc., that are actually looking over this series, trying to really keep it very streamlined, very organized, and so far it's just not looking good at all. Now look, this all comes in the midst and also in the aftermath of how they discovered her multiple acts of plagiarism, copying many people out there like Gordon Ramsay and Rachel Ray and even Pamela Anderson, and the list goes on and on. But overall, I would love to hear what everyone has to say about this entire development and this entire process of just Netflix higher-ups really trying to get it together for Season 2. I think that they would actually save a lot of time and energy if they just canceled this thing outright. But overall, I would love to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.